just like magic. I'm attracted. I get everything I want 'cause I attract.
Hey Divine Ones, this is Minister Ashley, and I wanted to answer some questions or some concerns about Christ and magic and divination. So I did post a couple videos in response to some people that had some concerns about Christ and being a Christian witch and Christ practicing magic and divination or condemning it. So just to clarify, okay, so Christ never condemned magic or divination. He actually never even mentioned magic and divination. And my whole point is that if you are a Christian, then the key component is Christ. It means that you're following Christ, Christ's actions, Christ's mindset, the attitude, the practices of Christ. There were commandments that were given, 10 commandments that were given to Moses. And those commandments are solidified. That means that they cannot be replaced or moved. So those 10 commandments are the basis of the whole religion, or I think just mankind in general, because they're pretty general, pretty straightforward, and they could be applicable to anyone. And those laws were directly given from Yahweh, from God, on 2 tablets that were given and brought down to mankind. Laws, and laws are fluid. Laws can change. We can see this in our modern day world where laws are constantly changing. Then you have decrees, and decrees are a little bit more narrow. They are a focus and often refer to a specific ruling made by God. Decrees are usually also made by, like, say for example, a high priest. Like, I decree this, that, the other, and they are inspired by God, but that's for a specific situation. 613 laws were given in Leviticus, Deuteronomy, I'm looking at my notes, and Exodus. So those were situational. So you had the Exodus where they were exiting out of Egypt, aka captivity, and they were entering into freedom. So they had to have these laws and structure in place in order for them to obtain this new mentality and to be able to be free on their own. So they had to have this transitional period. The people themselves could not uphold the 613 laws. So Christ came and did away with the old law. So the law that they were referring to when Christ is here to fulfill the law, referring to the commandments, to help people uphold the commandments, and the laws are done away with. I'm gonna give you some examples. So some examples would be laws surrounding offerings and sacrifices. So you know, back in the Old Testament, blood was required to be shed in order to even come in the presence of the Most High. You could not pray on your own behalf. You had to go in front of a high priest, and the high priest would be the intermediate. But remember, Christ became the intermediate once he died on the cross. So my whole point is that if you have 613 laws and then you want to pick out the one surrounding magic, then you're going to have to uphold all of the 613 laws. And that also includes dietary laws. I mean, how many people are on medications? How many people are out of shape? How many people still eat pork? And that is considered to be unclean food. Someone would say that, okay, yes, there are the laws that are dealing with magic and sorcery that are in the Old Testament, but it's also mirrored in the New Testament. So my response to that is that it did not come from a direct quote from Christ. So my whole ideology is surrounded by Christ. It has nothing to do with the apostles. My whole basis is based on the premise of Christ, his walk, his thoughts, his words. Then you have some people that will say that all scriptures are inspired by God. I would say, then why were some of the scriptures taken out of the Bible? So if you want to learn more about biblical magic and divination, I do have PDF downloads listed in the link in my bio. Someone did bring up a really good point, and they asked me to actually find a quote from Christ that he did practice and condone magic and sorcery. So one, magic is intention manifested. So it's not like how people may think you see on TV, like, oh, hocus pocus. That's over dramatization. Another thing is that anyone that deals with magic, sorcery, etc., the sacred mysteries, they're not going to publicly announce it, okay? That's for a sense of protection, but it also is about secrecy. It's really about clothing yourself in mystery. You know some of the ancient practices, and then you compare them with some of the things that Christ did. You can see the correlation, but it would take one studying in order for it to see the similarities. And so therefore, he would have been immediately shut down, because remember that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were still in charge. They had direct communication with a lot of the leaders. They also controlled the crowds. So with that, if he had came right out and announced it, immediately his ministry would have been shut down. Shortly after Christ was born, him and his parents fled to Egypt to avoid persecution from King Herod. It doesn't say exactly how long he was there, for maybe about 3.5, 4 years. Then it picks up to where he is 12 years old and he's sharing knowledge and wisdom in the temple in Jerusalem. It's like a public acknowledgement of his ability, his wisdom. And during that time period, some speculate that Christ indeed was in the mystery schools in Egypt, or better known as Kemet. Some of the things that Christ did and some of his initiations. So first of all, possibly the mystery school, but he also made his wisdom publicly known when he was 12, around 11, 12 years old. Then his cousin, John the Baptist, a Baptist, but also of a priestly bloodline. That was a form of initiation when he was baptized into water. And then 40 days fast and isolation. That's another phase of initiation. We have water into wine, which was his first miracle, and that's an alchemy reference. And that is very similar to the story of Dionysus. Another one is where he used spit, saliva, and that's another practice there, just with saliva and mud, and he mixed it to help cure the blind man. He casted out demons. Another really important one is the woman with the issue of blood, and she touched his cloak. So that's not just a mystic reference, but also connected to Elijah and Elisha, because the cloak, and that's a whole nother discussion there. But as soon as she touched the hem of his cloak, she was cured. Another reason why this is very important is because women weren't allowed to be around people, let alone around a man, while they were bleeding. And when as soon as she touched him, he felt some of the power go away from him. Garment had power too. But I would also argue that it could have been the same cloak that was from the Old Testament. He would have been in direct sin just because of that. He was healing on the Sabbath, which was breaking one of the 613 laws by healing on the Sabbath. He disagreed with the high priest, many other things that were against those laws. He was already a rebel. I would say paired with him being a lawbreaker and with the miracles that he did do, and it aligns with a lot with the other ancient practices and miracles that people have also performed that have been known to be connected to mystery schools and magic, that I would say that Christ pretty much falls along the lines of that category. Now, it doesn't specifically say if he did or if he didn't. That's up for speculation, but I think that this is a good way of how to open up the floor for discussion and even open up for people that may be curious about practicing, that you do have some evidence here that you can grow with if you want to. This is the reason why I say that I would need to have quotes from Christ, not quotes from anyone else, because I am a Christ follower. So if you want to learn more about biblical magic and divination, I do have PDF downloads listed in the link in my bio. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys on the next one. Please share if you care to do so, and you can also leave your comments down below. Peace.